welcome to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. I'm your host, Louis Padian. I hope that you're doing well and are enjoying the podcast and the topics we've covered so far. These podcasts are released every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you are listening to be kept up to date. So today we'll be covering the power of 1% and aiming just for 1% improvement or being 1% better each day. And this is all about how the power of small and consistent progress and how powerful that can be. And it's something that I work on a lot with clients. We focus on making those small consistent changes over a long period, and it just can be phenomenal how impactful and where someone can be in 12 months time. The reason that I feel it's important to talk about this is because often people almost set themselves up for failure by going too hard too quickly, making changes too drastic and aiming to be perfect. They're aiming to be twice as good. They're aiming to be 100% better, when actually just being 1% better, being really consistent with that, because it's potentially a lot easier to do, just making these small changes but making sure they stick, can have a huge impact across a year. Now, I understand that this is really hard to picture and quantify in real life terms, so I thought it was really interesting or really useful to put it into an example that we're probably all familiar with. So say if we were working together and instead of me coaching you, I'm just going to go, right, here's a £1. If you want to use a dollar, if you want to use whatever currency you're comfortable working with, but I'm going to use a pound as that's what I'm comfortable with. So we go, right, on day 0, I'm going to give you a £1. And over the next year, me and you are going to work together and just go, we're going to aim for 1% better each day. So 1% and building on that. So day 1, we review, we sit down and go, right, so what's it at now? And it would be at £1 and 1 penny. And you might feel that, oh, well, I could go do a lot more than this. I could push a lot harder, and maybe we could get for a 20% or a 50% increase. When actually my job as a coach sometimes is to pull you back and go, actually, no, let's take it easier, be more consistent, because these changes are more likely to stick long term, not just for our time together, but long after we're finished working together, that you're still doing the things that we've worked on because we've built up momentum and consistency with those habits. So day 1, we're at £1 and 1 penny. We sit down at the end of the week, day 7, and we're at £1 and 7 pence. And again, you might think, what are we actually doing here? I could be pushing myself so much more. Made a little bit of progress, yes, but actually, what we actually doing? I go, hold on, trust the process. This is the importance of coaching is about, is us going, what things can we focus on? And on the next episode, we'll go into a deep dive on this, but I thought it was important just to talk through this to start with. So after a week, we go and leave it and we'll say, we'll catch up after 30 days. So 30 days have gone and we've still been consistent, getting 1% better each day, and we're at £1.35. So maybe not what you was expecting there. You might have been expecting £1.30, but actually because we've been building on that 1%, we're starting to build momentum. And actually you're at £1.35, probably 5 pence more than you're expecting. So maybe you're going, actually I can see where this is going, and we'll review it. So we sit down after 90 days, so 3 months, and maybe you're expecting £1.90. Actually we're at £2.45. So we're really starting to pick up a bit of speed now. So we're over double, almost 2.5 times where we started, and we're being consistent with it. And that's the key part here, is when we're looking at 1% changes, we're looking at those small things that probably aren't going to seem like having a huge impact on your life. It could just be a way to manage your stress a little bit better. It could just, and that could be just something simple as, right, sit down, reflect on your day, spend 2 minutes, 2-minute rule that, or guideline that I use a lot of times when we're talking about journaling. Use it as an explorative task, no judgment, just curiosity, and use that pen and paper just to help manage your thoughts before bed. It can be really good to help you have a better night's sleep. And we know sleep can be almost like a superpower if we can really improve on that. So we sit down after 90 days, we're at £2.45, which again, like I said, is almost 2.5 times where we started. Now, this is where we really start to pick up. So we go, right, we've done 3 months. We'll review again in 6 months' time. At the 6-month point, so 180 days. And some people might expect that we're at, I don't know, £2.80 if we were just going 1 penny, 1 penny, 1 penny. But actually, because we've been building and it's growing at 1% each time, we're actually at £6 by this point. So we are 6 times where we started. When we review after 9 months, which roughly 270 days, we're at £14.68, which again is huge considering we started with £1. We're at £14.68. We've built up over that over time. It's nearly a 1,468% increase on where we started, just from that persistent 1% investment. And we go, right, we'll catch up at the end of the year. So in a year's time, if we sat down and focused and put in 1% and focus on being 1% better each day. And that's just by doing little things. It's nothing huge, nothing that's going to be too strenuous, just being consistent with that. Over 365 days, we are at £37.78. So that's a 3,778%, or nearly 38 times better than when we started, just by being consistent with very small changes. And the reason that I thought it was important to talk about this is that often people underestimate how much they can achieve in a long period of time just by being really consistent, and potentially we overestimate how much we can get done in a short amount of time, which potentially I'll discuss on another episode. But it's about that commitment and that consistency, that 1% better. And it could just be making sure you're a bit better with your hydration. Not perfect, not twice as good, just a little bit better. Be mindful of it. Could just be, right, I'm going to take myself for an extra couple of minutes walk today, and going through that and adding that to the consistency of what we're trying to do, and finding these little small wins that we can go, actually, maybe I can continue to do this. Could just be having a bit more of a nutritious lunch. And from my side, the hard part isn't about picking what you're going to focus on, because there's so many different things we could all improve on. We could all have a lot of time to sit down and actually map out everything. There's thousands of things. It could be developing better sleeping habits. It could be increasing your protein or protein choices. It could be increasing the amount of fruit and veg, hydration, like I've mentioned, and just aiming to be a little bit better. The hard bit is the consistency, and this is why these smaller things are better to focus on. Because if I say, right, from this week, if you're currently doing 2,000 steps a day, or maybe 1,000 steps a day, go, right, so tomorrow we're going to start hitting 10,000 steps a day, and we're going to be trying to be consistent with that. That's a big gear change for a lot of people, and it's probably unachievable, and you might achieve for a little while, but it might wear thin because your lifestyle currently isn't set up to do that. And changing it around to a position where you are consistently doing that would be a big change. It'd be quite uncomfortable. It's unlikely to stick. When if we went, right, you're at 1,000 steps now, I'm going to aim to do an extra 100 steps today, and then the next day I aim to do another extra 100, and build that consistency over time. 100 steps could take a couple of minutes, if that, and we're just trying to find those little bits of activity each day. By the end of the year, you could be on a huge amount. And this isn't what I'd recommend with doing your steps, is that adding that 1%, because we'd look to add in lots of different areas where we could, right, let's focus on steps today, aim to build that consistency. Tomorrow, let's see how we can get sleep a little bit better as well. And like I said, the hard bit isn't picking what we need to do. It's the consistency and almost pulling ourselves back and going, right, what's almost too easy that I can't not do it? So imagine the impact that could have on your health, well-being and happiness if you focus on making those small improvements consistently with your eating habits, your stress reduction, your sleep, your activity, your social well-being, or your just general happiness each day. Where could you be this time next year? And I'll leave you with that thought. So there you have it. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. If you have any questions, queries, or would like to reach out to me, please do. I am at Louis Padian Nutrition, which is at LOUISPADIAN Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. If you're looking for support in achieving your goals and living a healthier, happier, and more balanced life in the process, click the link below and inquire about working with me. Remember to subscribe to the Balanced Approach podcast wherever you're listening for more insightful episodes, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.